Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position against free speech in the election context, in the context of COVID-19. A presidential memorandum to the one you just signed. It is he might have, and further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts that he participated in while he was still head of CISA.
This is another one. I don't know that I met him. I'm sure I met him, but I didn't know him. And he came out right after the election, which was a rigged election, a badly rigged election. We did phenomenally in that election. Look what happened to our country because of it. Open borders, millions of people coming into our country. Russia and Ukraine, that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened.
In case you missed that huge news yesterday, like I said, that was a major story that broke shortly after I was with you at 2:30 yesterday. And it was near and dear to my heart. President Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into former CISA director Chris Krebs. Some of you may be asking, well, who exactly is this guy? Who is Chris Krebs? It's this guy.
It's completely and utterly surreal. None of these lies have been substantiated to any extent. Every single one of them has been debunked.
Chris Krebs was director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, charged with protecting the 2020 election. He called it the most secure election in American history, and days later was fired by President Trump.
How secure was the 2020 election? Let me put it this way. It was the most litigated. It was the most scrutinized. It was the most audited. This election was put through the ringer from so many different directions. There's no evidence that any machine that I'm aware of has been manipulated by a foreign power. Period.
Join us now to talk more about that guy is our own White House correspondent, Kara Castronova. Kara, thank you so much for joining me. Look, I've been on cloud nine since this broke because I've always said that Chris Krebs was instrumental to the steal in 2020. We started to learn so much more. None of us really knew who he was or what he'd been doing in the lead up to the election. This is very interesting to me that Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into Krebs. I didn't know that was going to happen. I know that some people, some of his aides around him, some people advising him had shared our reporting with him. And now this. Tell us, he also put out some of the justifications for this executive order to the Department of Justice, correct?
Yes, and I read that executive order, and to me, it's like a Christmas present, really. And I'm sure the same way with you and a lot of others that were so canceled and demonized after the election in 2020 when we were asking questions. But really, the executive order removes, obviously, the security clearance for Christopher Krebs and also puts into question really what he did when it came to censoring conservatives, to censoring anybody that was questioning the election, even censoring COVID and Hunter Biden's laptop, which was just so extreme in 2020, the censorship that we all experienced actually for 4 years now. So for me, this just opens up so many more doors where I can investigate. And I know you feel the same way, Admiral, trying to really get to the bottom of what Christopher Krebs did, what his involvement was when it came to that election. A lot of people say maybe he was covering up for something that he knew. People that I'm talking to. So hopefully we'll finally get to the bottom of that. I'm excited about this executive order. Besides the auto pen one, I think this might be my favorite so far.
It definitely is mine. I've been waiting for that. And I know that there are several more shoes to drop. And I feel like this is probably really getting the ball rolling. So we'll keep covering this extensively. And in just a moment, I'm going to talk with the former spokeswoman for Donald Trump, Liz Harrington, who is as well versed as any of us on the 2020 stolen election fraud in general, and particularly as Chris Krebs relates to that topic. So we'll dive a little deeper with Liz into exactly who he is, what he's been doing since the election, what he was doing in the lead up to the 2020 election. And we'll dive a little deeper into that. Now, some fascinating moments out of that cabinet meeting that happened a little bit earlier today. I was blown away by several of the statements made by the president's cabinet. Of course, we've been covering the trade issue pretty heavily, but there were some really important moments, particularly with, number one, Tulsi Gabbard, and number two, RFK, right?
Yes. Everybody's still talking about tariffs, the economy, and other things, but I wanted to make sure to focus on obviously Robert Kennedy Jr. I feel like his mission to make America healthy again is something that's so important to so many of us. And it's getting overshadowed, I think, a lot now in the media with everything else going on. And I was really happy to see the administration put out a clip of Kennedy and President Trump talking about getting to the bottom of autism and really refocusing on that. Because I know a lot of people were concerned with Kennedy. They were wondering if he was going to revisit the vaccines and right, and if they were what was actually causing autism, and also the childhood epidemic for obesity. And something he said that really hit home to me and made sense was, he was speaking about measles, and I want you to take a listen to the clip, but just saying like what we need to start talking about every child that has obesity, that's suffering from a childhood obesity. Yeah. Why aren't we fixating on that the same way the media is fixating on these 2 children that allegedly died of measles when it comes out that the second child did not die of measles? That statement was put out by Kennedy as well. So take a listen to Robert Kennedy Jr. and President Trump really talking about autism, vaccines, and the childhood obesity epidemic.
And we're trying to refocus the press. We've had 3 measles deaths in this country over 20 years. And we're trying to refocus the press to get them to pay attention to the chronic disease epidemic as you've asked us to. We have now 38% of American youth are pre-diabetic. This was unknown 30 years ago. Every child that becomes diabetic, there should be a headline about them. We have 100 million adults who are pre-diabetic or diabetic. And we have, we have now the autism rates have gone from now most recent numbers we think are going to be about 1 in 31, 1 in 12, so they're going up again from 1 in 10,000 when I was a kid. And we are going at your direction. We are going to know by September. We've launched a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures.
So big. Think of that. So it was 1 in 10,000 children had autism, and now it's 1 in 31. Not 31,000, 31. That's a horrible statistic, isn't it? And there's got to be something artificial out there that's doing this. So you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
There will be no bigger news conference than that. So that's it. If you can come up with that answer where you stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's a shot, but something's causing it. It can't be from 10,000 to. Can you imagine that, Marco? That's a big number. Thank you very much. You're doing great. Thank you, Bobby.
Wow.
So President Trump's reaction to me was, really great. And, just how he said that's going to be the biggest news, and how he's actually acknowledging, in front of the cabinet that it could be from a shot, it could be artificial. So continuing to actually speak on this, I was concerned myself that would be dropped. But thank God it's still at the forefront of the conversation. So, I love that clip. It actually made me emotional because I really think it's so important that we continue to ask questions when it comes to these vaccines and when it comes to childhood obesity epidemic and autism. So many children are affected. And like Kennedy said, if there was a front page article for every kid that's sick from these diseases, you probably, you can't even imagine every day there would be a headline like they are doing with these measles deaths. So that just really hit home for me.
Yeah, and the propaganda campaign and the corporate media is working on in regards to the measles. I was at dinner yesterday evening, and I could hear a table next to me, and the 2 ladies are having an argument about, one was pro-vaccine, like jab to the hilt, and the other was saying, I don't trust them. I'm not getting, still the debate about the COVID jabs. And the justification that the other lady was using is that, but the people are dying of measles. And it was so hard not to get involved and interject in that conversation. But this is a huge commitment. And for Donald Trump to say this right there and to make those statements himself, is obvious that this research is going to go forward, that it's not. And, it backs up what one of my guests joined me a little later in the show, Charlene Bollinger, who is a friend of Bobby Kennedy Jr. She'd been saying, be patient, be patient. So
thank God.
Yeah. I want to get to
Yeah.
another moment in the cabinet meeting as well, because we're going to talk about this with our next guest, also Liz Harrington, and that's what Tulsi Gabbard had to say in regards to election integrity. Let's listen.
We're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time, and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
It was so great to hear a former Democrat actually speaking about, election integrity and paper ballots. Like I said, it was a great cabinet meeting. And
machines.
Tulsi, yes, the machines, and talking about that. Now she's in there and she's going to get that intelligence and hopefully get that information out to the rest of us, because obviously there's so many suspicions around these machines. And something notable she also said was within the next few days, the Robert Kennedy files will come out, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King on those assassinations, and those should be ready within the next few days. So they're really fighting for transparency over there in the intelligence community, and Tulsi Gabbard has really been, to me, she's doing a great job so far, especially if she gets us those files unredacted. I'm hoping.
Yeah. Look, and just imagine his son is sitting in that room as a member of the cabinet. What an iconic, historic moment in regards to the machines. And I know that specifically the Director of National Intelligence, Ms. Gabbard, has been briefed. I know largely what she's been briefed on in regards to these machines, and it sounds like they're going to start disseminating this to the public very soon. I've been having to sit on some information, as everybody knows who's been following my X thread. So this was a big indicator to me that there's another shoe to drop very soon. Of course, Donald Trump ordering the investigation into Chris Krebs, but also taking away the security clearance of that law firm that has been responsible for the voting machine litigations, has been behind those, and targeting specifically Mr. Mike Lindell. So such a huge 2 days of news for us here at LindellTV. Thank you, Carrie Casanova, for being there on the ground for us and making sure we get all the important information out to our audience. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you, Emma.
And speaking of Chris Krebs, I want to take you through a little backgrounder before I bring Liz on as to exactly who he is. First of all, Krebs was never actually qualified to be the head of CISA. It's just a small department inside of DHS, but obviously could be very detrimental to the country. The disgrace, Chris Krebs, is the I saw nothing, I heard nothing, I know nothing cybersecurity expert. He's obviously not smart enough, right, to be a computer expert. He was just simply Chad Wolf's, the former Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, best friend, because it was actually Chad Wolf who hired Krebs for the CISA job. He didn't even have any credentials or expertise to run CISA. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. In fact, Krebs has a bachelor's degree in environmental sciences. And according to DHS officials in an email to me back in 2020 when I was at Newsmax, Chris Krebs was fired by President Trump then because he was in no position to comment on, quote, questions of domestic fraud, since it was, quote, beyond the scope of CISA authorities. Krebs was not qualified, according to DHS officials talking to me, to say that the 2020 election was secure. After being fired, Krebs became the face of a vast and illegal government censorship operation directed against the American citizens during the Biden regime, especially me. Where is he now? Well, Mr. Krebs is now hiding out at a group called Sentinel-1. It's really just a spook center in California. President Trump should probably freeze all government contracts and security clearances for that company too. Why did former DHS head Chad Wolf allow Chris Krebs to undermine the 2020 election on his watch? It's the question I have for him whenever I can ever get an opportunity to talk to him. Wolf even refused to fire Krebs after Trump ordered him to do so in 2020. But most alarming, Wolf's senior advisor for election security was an Obama aide, Matt Masterson. That's a story for another day. Here's what's really interesting, though. Krebs threw a 2020 election party. Guess who was invited? According to a former colleague of mine in the White House press corps, Steve Nelson, who's still at the New York Post, a document reviewed by the Post indicates it was attended by 2 staffers of none other than Dominion Voting Systems. After the election, Krebs started the Krebs and Stamos group with the notorious Alex Stamos. He was a former head of the Stanford Internet Observatory. Looks like their first customer was SolarWinds. That's a red flag since the SolarWinds hack took place while Krebs was running CISA, and we'll go more into that tomorrow. Despite that, on a side note, Jen Easterly, the Biden-era CISA director, gifted her predecessor with a board position in 2024. All the while, Alex Stamos and Chris Krebs spent most of their time, 2021 to 2024, trying to destroy free speech in America, which Stamos had already been doing for some time at the Stanford Internet Observatory, of which I myself was a target, and at Facebook. Before that, where according to court documents, he was the point person for the FBI to put in their censorship requests. Now, with that backgrounder, let's bring on the great Liz Harrington. She's a former spokeswoman for President Donald J. Trump, and she's a tireless advocate for securing our elections and getting rid of these machines. Liz, I couldn't be happier with the last 2 days. How do you feel?
I love your background and introduction. I didn't even realize this was going on. I wasn't paying attention the past couple of days. And now that I know what has unfolded, because I totally missed the Krebs news yesterday afternoon, this is huge and so amazing. I honestly can't even believe it's happening, but it is, because you're so used to, people saying they're going to do things and you expect something to happen and then nothing really happens. Oh no, President Trump means business. And to see what Tulsi Gabbard just said in that cabinet meeting, I think that is huge. To see the Chris Krebs announcement and the text of the actual order, which explicitly notes that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen, calls him out for lying about that fact, and specifically notes that the machines are part of it. That are vulnerable. So this is huge. President Trump is not taking no for an answer anymore. He's so determined, I think, to get fair elections in this country. He cares about this country. He's so determined to turn it all around. You can't turn it around if we have these machines. You can't turn it around if you don't have a free and fair vote. So this is amazing news, and I'm sure you're so pleased as well, Emerald.
I am, because it also indicates to me that the ball is rolling forward, that Donald Trump is actually making sure this gets done, and sooner rather than later, because of course the midterms hinges on this, right? Cleaning this up. His ability to implement his agenda depends on cleaning this up, and really his legacy depends on cleaning this up. I know that Tulsi Gabbard and her team were briefed recently, I won't give exactly when, on some evidence that is very damning for the voting machines. And I was told that her and her team were blown away. And I feel like you could see that, you could sense that in what she said in the cabinet meeting there, Liz.
Right. And this is exactly what I've been hoping and praying for, that all you need to do is just expose how corrupt this is. It's just one area. I mean, the machines is a huge part of it. Just put it out there, and then you have a mandate to get the change that the American people want, that the American people vote for, that they absolutely need. This is huge. So if she's going to go public with all of this, and the American people can see for themselves just how disgusting and vulnerable, and how these machines and how our elections have been subverted, and they can see it for themselves, I mean, that will be a huge game changer. And it has to come out. It has to be public. Like so many other things that they're discussing, exposing this government corruption is a huge priority. And that's how you get real change. And the amazing thing too, Emerald, when you're talking about that background with Krebs and to where we are now, think about where we could have been. I mean, with these people running things, it would be over. And now we have, by the grace of God, a real chance to get real elections in this country. I mean, you just couldn't be happier. Keep pushing forward. Do it, Tulsi. Go public. This is amazing stuff that the people need to know and need to see for themselves.
And there needs to be accountability. And so when we're talking about an investigation by the Department of Justice, there is potential there for indictments. I believe, based on Krebs inviting the Dominion employees to his party and statements he made prior to the election, and I know you're sharing some of that on your X feed at Real Liz USA. He was very critical of President Trump. He sat in on conferences where they called Trump authoritarian, and he took part in those. And that was prior to the 2020 election, right? He'd even said that the 2016 election was stolen by the Russians. He should never been in that position in the first place. He clearly if he knew that these machines were vulnerable to be hacking, and we do, I think there has to be some kind of accountability, because he was in that position to make sure things like that didn't happen. Liz, I hope we actually see arrest as well, because if there's not actual arrests, we can clean things up, but they'll be emboldened to try again.
Right. I mean, you have to have people pay for breaking the law and for lying and subverting. I mean, what could be worse than subverting the American people and installing, and he literally said this, that he felt the job wasn't done until January 20th, 2021, when Biden was illegitimately installed. So he viewed it, him and who else, because he said, we did it. They viewed it as their mission that they had to do. 2016 was a wake-up call. If they truly believed that Russia stole the election and it was disinformation and hacking and this and that, well, look what you did in 2020. You became the disinformation. You're the one censoring true information of how our elections were fraudulent. You did everything you claimed to be against what Russia so-called did, when we know that was all a hoax anyway. But they became that. And there has to be a real price to pay, as President Trump said yesterday when he signed this. And I want to know, this is why an investigation is so important. How did this even happen? Who told you to put out a statement on that date that this was the most secure election, not just, in a decade and, so many years, no, in history? That was the most propaganda press statement probably in our history to ever put out in official channels. It was for a specific purpose. And it literally, in the statement, they said it's the most secure election, but the recounts haven't even been finished yet. So trust us, it was so secure, but we're checking to make sure all the numbers match. Give me a break. They knew it was fraudulent. They were protecting those fraudulent results. That's what they meant when they called it Protect 2020, which CISA and the elections group with their consultants, all these people working together, planned and coordinated well before November 3rd. So that's what they need to investigate, this coordination. They were working a very long time on the censorship aspect and then protecting the fraudulent results, which they were predetermined outcome that they knew was going to happen, and they wanted to protect it at all costs. So that's what the investigation needs to show and determine and hold those people accountable, because there's nothing worse than stealing an election. President Trump talks about it all the time. He goes through, you wouldn't have the 13 dead in Afghanistan and all the others wounded. You wouldn't have all this mayhem and destruction of our country. There needs to be accountability, like you said, Emerald. They'll be emboldened and they'll try to do it again.
I'm glad you brought up that statement. And I think an investigation will clarify this, but from what I understand from talking to a former CISA employee, who was actually, I thought, generous to Chris Krebs, having worked with him, I guess they feel a little bit of, like they know him, right? It was crafted, that statement was crafted by Dominion and a couple of other companies with a vested interest in saying that. He signed off on it, but that was essentially the voting machine company said they were the most secure election in history. Liz Harrington, thank you so much. Let's have you back in a couple days as more of this develops, and I have more reporting that I'll be adding in. I'd love to have you join us again very soon. Thanks for jumping on with us today. And a lot of this is due to your work as well, Liz. You work closely with the president. You make sure he knows about all of these reports. I know you still flag the information for him and probably still give him information. So thank you, Liz, for your efforts. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much, Emerald.
Let me ask you, do you ever think about what's in energy drinks? Well, it's time we did. Introducing Rev 7, a premium energy drink that's actually good for you. And it tastes great and gives you energy all day. Plus, it has no sugar or caffeine, so you won't experience those jitters and crashes that we've all been through with the other energy drinks. And what makes Rev 7 so special is that it's powered with Cognizant, a premium nootropic that helps fuel your mind, and Go BHB, which is a primary ketone in your body that provides the most efficient and cleanest fuel ever. It's a game changer when it comes to consuming less sugar and caffeine and still getting the energy we need. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20%. And I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free.
You can tell a lot about a man by the company he keeps, and so is also the case with Christopher Krebs, pictured here right next to one of those notorious 51 lying intelligence officers who suggested that the Hunter Biden laptop was nothing more than mere Russian propaganda. Join us now for a deeper dive into this aspect of the Chris Krebs story as our friend, retired Colonel John Mills. Not only is he a friend, but he also is a author whose book is available on the Lindell store. So go to the Lindell store, online bookstore right now to get the book, The War Against the Deep State. And it doesn't get any swampier or more deep state, it appears, than Krebs, John Mills. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Emerald. Great to see you. And use your code when you go to the Lindell store for The War Against the Deep State, and it's Emerald, right?
Yes, Emerald.
Yes.
Yes, I forgot about that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, viewers, you use the code Emerald. War Against the Deep State, and the nation will follow. Yeah, good old Chris Krebs. You can't spell disaster without Chris. And, Chris, I'm not even going to dignify him by calling him a swamp monster. He's more of a swamp weasel. And, it's just, right there. He's right next to Rick Ledgett, who I used to work with when Rick was at NSA. He clearly doesn't have enough money to afford a haircut now. And now he looks like he just came from, the latest Burning Man or something like that. I'm not sure what's going on with Rick, because he sure didn't look like that when he was in service. So, look, and, Rick, I think, has his own legal problems here. He was, I believe, an 18 U.S. Code 202 special government employee when he signed that letter, which means what? It means he made a false statement as a federal official. That's a felony. Now, Chris Krebs, let's talk about that swamp weasel, is, look, after the election, if he had been honest, what he should have said was, I don't have the people, programs, and resources to tell you whether it was a fair election. And oh, by the way, I actually have no legal authority, no legal authority to even look into elections, which at that time was true, and it actually is still true today. They put election security on their website. It's like, really? Please cite the U.S. code at which CISA has the authority to look at elections. I can't find it. They just said, hey, election equipment is now critical authority. Therefore, we have authority to look into it. Really? No, you need, no. This is like the EPA. No, you got to have a precise statute on that. So this is a mess. And then a month later, after Chris Krebs says most secure election ever, He gets absolutely beat up, run over, gets his, I don't know if we're allowed to say this on LindellTV, he gets his butt kicked by Solar Winds and says, yep, they got right by us. Well, a month
Yeah, and
earlier.
tell us about this solar. Let's talk about
a
that
month
SolarWinds
earlier,
hack, and then I want to talk.
This was a
cyber hack right before the November election. People might have remembered it. It caused a big deal. It was just a mere couple months right before the November election. What was that? And I mean, this is something that should have been prevented according to what CISA does, right? Or they should at least have been more ready for it. And this was on Krebs' watch.
Yeah. I mean, he's on record in December while he was still in office. Yep, they got by us. Yep, SolarWinds, biggest hack in history. I mean, essentially, it was embedded software in critical infrastructure that was broadly and pervasively used across the U.S. government. And guess who put it there? China. So, Mr. Most Secure Election Ever gets totally beat up and gets his butt kicked by Solar Winds. And then when he's out of office, he comes back in February and gives congressional testimony under oath and says, essentially, I didn't have the people, programs, or resources to effectively do my job at CISA. I mean, Krebs, which one is it?
And allegedly there's screenshots out there that Dominion actually used SolarWinds. So that's very critical. And this is something we're going to dive deeper into tomorrow, is the SolarWinds aspect of this. But Chris Krebs, now what is this cyber group he's a part of with this former Intel, with your former colleague at NSA? What is he doing now? I mean, he seems like he's everywhere, but what is that particular group?
This is a rogues gallery of deep staters. This is a sub-element, a subgroup of the Cipher Brief. Suzanne Kelly, formerly with CNN. It's just a roster of every deep state intel person. Now, there are some people that are potentially on our side, but they are outnumbered about 10-1 by this. But the Cipher Brief is where all the cool kids of the deep state hang out. And it's like, but I read it every day because it's just like it's just confessions in plain sight. They're just telling you essentially everybody what they're doing. It's essentially a government in exile and a place where they can come together and commiserate, and they'll wave, they got big names like General Hayden, who's not doing very well medically right now. And so he's essentially wheelchair bound, and they're wheeling him around trying to show off his face, but it's pretty pathetic. But yeah, it's the Cipher Brief. You want to know what the swamp monsters are up to and the swamp weasels? Just go to the Cipher Brief. I scan it almost daily
that wasn't on my radar. Now I'm going to add it to bookmarks. You brought up China, so I do want to get into the tariff thing just a little bit with you here, because you're such an expert on China as well. It seems that Trump has isolated them. The tariffs got brought up in today's cabinet meeting as well, and I want to play this soundbite because it was a bit of a fun moment with the Secretary of the Treasury. Listen.
We've got over 75 countries that want to come in, so it'll be Treasury, Commerce, Jameson at USTR, and we're putting a process in place. And as you said, you're going to be part of the negotiations too, because I've had these countries call me up and Secretary Bessent, we're happy you're going to be negotiating. Well, President Trump's going to be involved too.
So he put a 90-day pause on those countries that called, and it seems like he's really hammering China. Will this work? They noted the trade. Howard Lutnick on a television appearance today noted the trade deficit with China, but that we're their biggest market. So how is this going to play out, John?
In the instruments of national power, starts with it's dime or dime fill, but it's diplomatic, information, military, and economic. But we should always be starting with the diplomatic and the economic. We have all, as the president has said before, we have all the cards. We could have shut China down and nothing flat. We could have shut Russia down and nothing flat. But the Obama-Biden globalists are bought off, corrupt, and actually financially illiterate. They don't understand what this means. They have no clue to what the economic power of the United States means. China the only reason China's economy is going is so they can create and flood the U.S. markets with, I don't like that that term, but cheap stuff from China, oftentimes made with slave labor. Just cutting off the de minimis rule, which most people are going, what in the world is he talking about? The de minimis rule is, it is an ancient, but was still in effect postal rule and essentially a trade regulation where anybody in the world could mail something to the United States as long as it was under $800 in value, and they could buy it. It wouldn't be subject to customs inspection. Wouldn't be subject. Well, this is how they were getting their ghost gun parts into America. The predominant source of ghost gun parts, China. This is how. This is one of their backup ways to get fentanyl into the country. It was their way to get all kinds of cheap stuff into the country. And so, just cutting off the de minimis rule was a full force punch in the face to China. Now, that was several weeks ago. Now, with the tariffs, I always trust the boss, Donald J. Trump, because he knows how to do this. And he just says, we're going to clobber everybody. And then he says, you know what? We're going to hold back on everybody except China. And China is going apoplectic because there's only one thing Xi thinks about when he thinks about these tariffs, and that's, do I have quadruple guards on my bedroom door at nighttime?
Wow. Fascinating. There's so much panic out there, from the other analysts on the corporate media. This is very reassuring to hear. And this is what I have heard as well. John Mills, nobody explains it quite the way you do. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll remind our audience to go to the Lindell store, use the promo code Emerald to get John's very, very excellent book on the deep state. Thank you so much, John, as always.
Thank you, Emerald. Thank you so much.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures.
Our next guest, Charlene Bollinger, had been insisting that people just needed to give RFK time and space to work out all the many flaws in our government health bureaucracy. She had reminded us time and again that this is a marathon, not a sprint, even on the issue of vaccines, which many in the MAHA movement, I'll be transparent, myself included, have feared RFK Jr. was abandoning. The controversial HHS secretary had recently reiterated his opposition, though, to forced vaccinations.
No, I've always said during my campaign and every public statement I've made, I'm not going to take people's vaccines away from them. Right. What I'm going to do is make sure that we have good science so that people can make an informed choice. And we are doing that science today so that we know the risks of that product, and we also know what the benefits are. And right now, we don't know the risks of many of these products because they're not safety tested.
And I understand.
Indeed, the Truth About Cancer Substack advises people not to fall into what they refer to as the NPC trap. That's an acronym from the gaming world that means non-playable character. That term is often used to describe the people who automatically decry any actions that President Trump or his top advisors like RFK Jr. make without even thinking that there might be some good in those actions. Charlene Bollinger joins us now. She's from The Truth About Cancer. You're looking pretty good today, Charlene. Everybody else, I mean, a lot of people were about ready to jump ship. I had a guest on yesterday and we were getting concerned, but you were saying be patient. And that cabinet meeting today, he and Donald Trump acknowledging the correlation that appears to be, right, between autism and the childhood vaccines, and saying they are absolutely going to study this, was what we all wanted to hear.
Yes, thank you for having me on. And you're right. The rhetoric within our own movement was going so south so fast. It was like an endless pit downward. And so I just put something brief, but I thought pretty powerful, because we've been doing this for decades. And so I wanted everyone in our movement to understand that we could still trust Bobby Kennedy after 20 years of his working very hard to clean up America, clean up our environment, clean up the vaccine program, and all of these other things. His own family is calling him crazy, and he keeps going, he keeps working, he keeps pushing, and he's not concerned with what people think, because he's got a job to do, and he's the man to get it done. And today at that cabinet meeting, I was almost screaming. I was at my desk in my office. I posted on my X account the video that I got. It's a little bit low quality, but it was the video of him stating, and I transcribed it. So it's what he said is also in words on this X post. He came out of the gate and simply stated that we have 680 cases compared to Europe's 127,000 and 37 deaths over on measles. And here we have 3 measles deaths in the last 20 years. That's the actual number we have. And he then went on to say, we are trying to get the press to recognize the chronic disease epidemic. And he said that 30% of youth today are pre-diabetic. This was unknown 30 years ago. Every child who becomes diabetic, there should be headline news. But here we are talking about the measles, right? He goes on to say, we have 100 million adults who are diabetic or pre-diabetic. This is where it got really amazing. And I quote, he said, the autism rates, the most recent numbers, we think are about 1 in 31. So they are going up from 1 in 10,000 when I was a kid. And from your direction, he looks at Donald Trump and says, from your direction, we are going to know by September. We've launched a massive testing and research effort that is going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. And by September, we will know what the cause of autism, this autism epidemic is, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures to the children. And Donald chimed in saying, think of that. It was 1 in 10,000. We had autism. Now it's 1 in 31, not 31,000, 31. That is a horrific statistic, isn't it? And there's got to be something artificial out there that is going on. Do you think that it do you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, Bobby? To which Bobby says, I'll know by September what's causing the autism epidemic. Then Donald chimes in response with this, quote, there will be no bigger news conference than that, where you come out with the answer when we stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's the shot, says Donald Trump, but something's causing it, and it can't be from 10,000. Can you imagine that, Marco? He looks over to Marco Rubio. That's a big number. Thank you very much. You're doing great. Thank you, Bobby. That just happened. They're setting the stage to really dig in to find out what's going on. Bobby couldn't come out and just generically say, hey, these are bad. It's my opinion. That would be absurd. He's looking into it. He's got scientists looking into it. He's looking at the data, and we're going to know by September. There it is. We all need to support Bobby Kennedy. He needs our support. He needs our strength. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we truly are going to make America healthy again. Bobby Kennedy's the man for the job, and I'm behind him 100%. I haven't gone to the right or to the left. I'm right with him, side by side, and everybody watching should be too.
You know what is also very telling about what they said in that cabinet room, and you hit this several times, they gave a date. Now, often in bureaucracy and in government, we don't get that, right? They're like, oh, we're going to do this. You just wait, we're going to do this. But they set a date, which makes it more tangible. It's going to happen.
Yes, they have their metrics. He has a team on it right now. They're doing the studies, they're looking at the data, and they're getting everything together. And this should have happened many years ago. This is why we needed Bobby Kennedy. So again, I encourage everybody to, instead of attacking him, take a seat, pause, pray, watch, and do what you can to support him. He's already being attacked by the other side, his own party, his own family. He doesn't need the MAHA members of our community attacking him. And really, I see a lot of people that are kind of new in our movement. We've been doing this for decades. We know that Bobby is a faithful man. We know what pressure he's been under. We've watched as he's been persecuted. We too have been persecuted by our family members through the last 3 decades because of the work that we do, because a lot of people have just bit the hook that has been thrown out there. It's propaganda, and the media is, as he said, should be covering the good work that we're doing. They should be covering the actual epidemics, not somebody died. And also, too, with the little girl that they said just died of the measles. No, she didn't. She did not die of the measles. She had the measles. She was better for 2 weeks. It was something else. It's medical malfeasance. So that's what we're looking at, too. So the media is complicit in this medical cabal stronghold that we have in the health community. So this is what Bobby Kennedy is going to clear up, clean up, and help America become healthy again.
I'll tell you why it was kind of easy for me to get concerned and to fall in the, well, maybe because I've seen it so much, Charlene, in DC. I've seen people come to DC with, pure and altruistic intentions and get corrupted extremely quickly. I would talk to these women, particularly, women who ran for Congress, and they were wonderful and they had grand ideas, and it wouldn't take very long for things to change. But I'm glad to see that Bobby Kennedy apparently is sticking to the mission. That means so much to me. He was, as I've told this on the show all the time, his Children's Health Defense was such a wonderful resource when I was choosing whether or not to vaccinate my children. And the research was so solid and the data they shared, we did it. We did not vaccinate our children. And that was due to Bobby Kennedy's, efforts. Charlene, he's not just looking at the vaccines. He's trying to clean up the mess that is public health policy and this bureaucracy with his AHA reforms. Let's listen to our correspondent in DC, Allison Steinberg, explain what he's trying to do also at HHS. Listen.
Under the Biden administration, the HHS was just completely bloated unnecessarily. The budget actually increased by 38% and staffing increased by 17% under Biden. Yet, of course, as we know, Americans are just the most unhealthy they've ever been. So what exactly did that do for us? Nothing. It did nothing except take away more of our hard-earned tax dollars. So now RFK Jr. wants to step in and downsize drastically. He's talking about reducing it from 82,000 employees down to 62,000, which I think is a step in the right direction. This is obviously going to streamline the agency and sort of consolidate unnecessary agencies.
There's an inverse relationship between how many health bureaucrats you have and public health, Charlene.
Yes. And he's going to, before he even was confirmed, before he was even nominated, talking about this position, Secretary of HHS, his goal, even before he announced that he was running, he told me that he was going to get in there and unwind the corruption in these agencies. So that is a big deal. He's going to look, and I've been saying again and again, He's going to pull out the org charts. He's going to look at the body of the work of each one of the scientists and doctors. And are they taking pharma money? And what are they reporting? What are they doing? Are they actually working for the public health? Or are they protecting the pharmaceutical wealth because they're taking the money? So all of that is in play too. So we're cleaning out house. We're getting people that really are working like Bobby is, like you are, like we are, to really help to build a robust health program to facilitate real health for the children, for the people in this country. So yeah, I mean, we're winning on every side. So as I watched the other day, our movement kind of blow up and buzz about Bobby's compromised, Bobby's one of them, I'm just shaking my head because I know Bobby so well. He has not gone through the fire. He has not been persecuted. He has not been on the straight and narrow path to help Americans to then just all of a sudden sell out. That doesn't even make sense. If you're watching Bobby closely and you've watched him for decades, and I think that going through this, the next time our movement blows up because they don't understand what Bobby's doing or why, remember this moment. Don't be so quick to attack. Give him a chance. He knows what he's doing. This is 4D chess, and he's going to get it done. That's what's happening.
You know what? I probably would have been more critical of that if because the 4D chess thing was used so much during the first term. I didn't believe there was really ever 4D chess happening. It was. We've had this book for a couple of days. You couldn't join us yesterday. Today was the right day. It was a divine appointment. Charlene, what we're going to do the next time we're feeling this way, we're going to go to your Substack, Truth About Cancer, and you're going to have this posted there today. You're going to have more on this, his statements today.
Yeah, Lord willing, I'm going to have it up today. I'll send you the link. We've got a lot of great information that will encourage everybody. So I'm going to send you the link.
Yeah. So the next time we're feeling this way, everybody in our audience, let's go to Charlene's Substack. Let's go to her X and see what she's saying to us about it, because she had the ticket this time. She was right. So we're gonna trust you when you tell us to be patient the next time. Charlene, it's so good to see you, and thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
And I'm glad you're right. I'm glad I was wrong, and I'm glad you're right. It's there are so many times I want to be wrong sometimes. And this is one time I'm glad I was wrong. Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you.
If you want to feel and look your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements that are designed to help you with everyday health goals. Whether it's boosting your energy or trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs, Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients, backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use promo code Lindell at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. So head over to purehealthresearch.com now, explore their 45 amazing supplements, and save 35% before this deal ends with promo code Lindell.
As you know, we here at The Absolute Truth have been covering the election that is currently being stolen in Romania extensively. Well, our own Alison Steinberg ran into some Romanians outside the White House today trying to raise awareness about the election fraud happening in their country.
A candidate that moved on to the second tour was someone that was for the people, a populist. And the Democrats are in power in Romania. They control the Congress, courts, electoral system. So they canceled the results for the first round because their person didn't win, didn't move to the next round. So they canceled, and now they actually took him out, disqualified him to be on the ballot. Coup. This is what's happening in Romania right now.
It reminds me a little bit of
We don't like this. We don't want it. It's exactly what they tried to do to Trump.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It reminds me a little bit of what happened
and
here.
we fought it here, and we won, and that's why we have him in the White House, and we want him to continue doing what he's doing and what Dodge is doing. I want them to go all the way, to clean up all this government, all the corruption here, and I want the same in Romania, but we can't do it when Anthony Blinken goes to Romania, and so they had the first round. The Supreme Court in Romania validated the results. Anthony Blinken goes to Romania and meets with the people, and after he leaves the next day, Supreme Court changed the result and said, we invalidate.
70% of the people in Romania support the candidate Georgescu, but they are afraid to speak because they are afraid to go out. Yeah, because they can censor you, they can arrest you. Some people are in jail right now just because they campaign for Călin Georgescu. And the government put them in jail, and they said, you're going to be free just after the election.
You never know who you'll run into in front of the White House. That's it for us today. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And that's the absolute truth.